I worked for the wrong person. I lost my position as a young attorney who was working very hard. But what the heck is this? And I'm in my first 2 years of practice. How can I prevent my career from being destroyed? And how can I get things back on track? Okay, most attorneys lose their jobs at some point, lose jobs in their career. So sometimes they lose it once, sometimes they use it multiple times, but almost everyone loses their jobs at some point in their careers. It's just how it works. You lose your job because the firm doesn't have enough work. You lose your job because someone doesn't like you. You lose your job because you made a mistake. You lose your job because the firm can't make you a partner. You lose your job because you do something wrong with a colleague. You may make it sexual. Who knows? People lose their jobs, all sorts of reasons. I've seen people lose their jobs because they got drunk at a party. Who cares? I mean, people lose their jobs. Everyone loses their jobs. The first thing is most attorneys at some point lose their jobs, whether it's something they did wrong or someone like them. There's so many reasons you could lose your jobs. I wouldn't worry about it. Does your career get destroyed from doing that? Absolutely not. You can certainly get fired and find plenty of jobs. The best way to get a job, and I talked about this earlier, is to apply for jobs that apply to firms that don't necessarily have openings, because if you do that, you're more likely to get a job. If you are competing with multiple people for a job, so if you're competing with multiple people for the same job, with multiple people for same job, who would you hire? Who would you hire? The person fired, or a person not working, or a person working? So you have to ask yourself those questions. So who would you hire if you were an employer? So one of the things I'll tell you, it's very interesting. So when you get in, and to answer your question about your career getting off track, when you get into a law firm, no matter what the law firm is, you have to decide what market are you interested in working in and what size firm. So here's how it works. So if you are from a major firm and you lose your job, your best option, this is just lose your job in a major firm. What is your best option? Your best option, and let's say you lose your job in a firm, options are to do the following. You can go to a smaller firm, a smaller, less prestigious firm, which can work. They will often ask questions. Major city with no economics, but no economics, with no recession, whatever. It's pretty obvious you lost your job for some reason. So major firm, you lose your job in a major city with no economic slowdown. You can go into a smaller, less prestigious position, can work. You can also go into a smaller, less prestigious position. You can also go into another market, which is a good idea, smaller market, or you can try to get a job in another major firm, or you can try to get a job in another major firm and another major firm. But I want to explain a little bit about this real quickly, because there's a couple points that I think a lot of people will miss. So the first thing is, if you lose a job in a major city with no economic slowdown, the problem with that is large law firms, especially in places like New York and Los Angeles and all those kind of markets, in Chicago and Houston, what they have is they have a huge number of attorneys to draw from applying to jobs. So if a law firm in Chicago has an opening for a litigation attorney, they are going to have an incredible number of applicants from other major firms, from major firms in other cities, from circuit court clerks, and all this sort of thing for any job that they have. So the problem with that from your perspective is, if you're trying to get a job with one of those firms, they're going to just not hire you, because they're going to obviously hire people that are employed over ones that aren't. And they're probably going to have access to people with just as good, if not better, qualifications. So that's your problem. So how do you get around that? One option is to apply to a smaller firm with a less prestigious position. So that can work. Or you can apply to a smaller market and get a position. That can work. Or you can also try to get a job in another major firm, which can work if you have just very rare qualifications. Or if you somehow are able to network in and know a partner or something that can help you get a job there. That's it. So those are your best options. What would I do if I were in a situation and I was in LA, Chicago, New York? I would probably, what I would do, the first thing is I would try to market myself to smaller firm, less prestigious position. I would apply for jobs and also non-jobs. So I would apply for firms that have jobs and also firms that don't have jobs. I would try other markets, smaller markets, and large firms as well, large and small firms. But what I would also do, and this is, by the way, something for everyone to think about, apply to small and large firms. And why would I do that? I would do that because other markets might make it easier for me to get a job. The easiest job place for you to get a job, by the way, easiest place is usually where you grew up, where you worked before, lived and worked, all that sort of things. Because you'll say, "Oh, I just want to really work in this market, and it's whatever." That's your easiest way to get a position. And then finally, you always apply everywhere without open. That's what I would do. I would not in any way. And I'm not going to freaking sit here and promote my own company. Law crossing, I would use to find firms that aren't without advertised job, meaning public advertised. So that's how I would, and I would also use law crossing. And law crossing archive just means all that is, that's firms that have had openings in the past. So that means they're likely to have them in the future. So I would apply to those firms as well. That's how I would handle it. So those are your best options. I bet anybody that loses their job can get a job. I used to own this company. I still own it, but it's operational, called Legal Authority. What that company did is that company would go out and basically do mass mailings using letters to all sorts of anybody that your practice area, any firm that did it. And if you chose a lot of places and applied to a lot of places, an incredibly high number of people, like percentage, would get jobs. And if you apply to enough places, everybody would get jobs. It's just, it works applying to a lot of places. I'll just give you one example. People doing things were crazy. I'm not going to get too far into it, but I saw, and May told the story last week or a week before, but I had two law students that had gone to Thomas Cooley, which is not the greatest law school out there. It may be one of the lowest ranked. And two students graduated. One of them brought his father to meet me, along with the other law student. These guys were in California getting ready to take the bar. They were from Michigan and had not done well in law school. Both had jobs in entertainment law firms out of law school in LA. So they got jobs not from being from LA, no connection, in an entertainment law firm, coming from one of the worst law schools in the country, doing mass mailings to entertainment law firms. How hard is it to get a job in entertainment law in LA? It's almost impossible unless you have connections, because I don't think, maybe I don't remember making any placements of entertainment attorneys, because there are so many people that want to do it. It's very difficult. Now, getting jobs in entertainment out of law school is even more ridiculously difficult. But you have when you're in law school, because who's going to hire? It's hard to explain why entertainment is such a hard thing to get into, but it's extremely hard. And both of these guys had gotten multiple jobs. They couldn't believe it. And all they did was send letters to every law firm in LA that did entertainment law, and they got jobs. Again, LA's entertainment law, impossible. I don't know of any placements that I've ever made doing that. I may have. I've certainly made hundreds of placements, if not thousands, of people that are in litigation or corporate or IP. But that particular practice area, no, just absolutely not. I'm just telling you that if you contact a lot of places and you do mass mailings, it's going to change your life and your career. No one does it. Works. I don't know how else to say it. Law schools, if you're in law school, often will tell you not to do it, but that's the only reason, is because if everyone in their law school did it, employers would get hundreds of applications, so maybe 50 per person. In the law firms need to be able to, and the schools need to be able to steer certain people to the best jobs. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just how it works. So if you get fired, if you're having a hard time finding a job, the only thing you need to do, it's very simple, is you need to just apply to every place you can find without openings. And that's works. The reason it works is those employers are not receiving other applicants. So, for some of them, you'll be the only person that's ever written them looking for a job. If you send a letter, it's much better than just applying randomly, than sending an email. Emails can be deleted. Letters come when they arrive on someone's desk. That's incredible. Same thing with faxes. You send a fax that comes and arrives on someone's desk. So I'm just telling you, it's a much better way of applying for jobs than any other way. It works.